Today we're working on Luciano's Evil Twin H1. We're going to try to get the tank color sanded with 2000 grit paper and make patterns. I'm going to show the technique I've used over the years for making patterns, officially called paper dollies by some of my friends, to lay out a very accurate and be able to replicate the paint job that we're looking for with very little effort, I think, relative to how else you could do it. If you do it another way that I don't know about, well, it probably would come out okay, but this way seems to work for me pretty well. Now today, to be perfectly honest, I'm very, very happy. We are ready to start working on Luciano's H1. We've got a little gap in time here. I don't know how a day is going to play out. The truth is, I never know how any day is going to play out. But I've got all the battery chargers under control. I'm ready to get downstairs as soon as possible. It's not pleasantly warm out here. And get started on Luciano's H1 gas tank. We finally yesterday made that corporate decision how we're going to paint it. And now all that's left is we talk the talk, now we got to walk the walk, or tape the tape, one or the other. Now, one of the signature features of anything I've ever painted, even a model plane, is I want to be able to rub my hand over a multiple stripe, and this is a multiple stripe. It usually requires making a paint map so you can, when you backmask this stays out and then you backmask that, and it gets complicated. It looks real easy when it's done. Until you do it, you think, oh gee, that's a little more complicated. Well, Luciano's job is not really that bad, but it has a similar stripe to the West Cooley bike. And we want to make it that when we're done, I don't want to feel that stripe, and I don't want to feel the decals. Either one. Now when you lay out a paint job like the FZR, and that was a 900-hour restoration, that is extreme painting. That is, just to lay that stripe out was a lot of hours, let alone to do it. And again, my signature of everything is you cannot feel that paintwork. Everything is just buffed perfectly smooth. And thank you, John Pothia, for helping me lay out that unique label. I think that sets the bike off in a crowd, that's for sure. And we have done some extreme painting. I think Luciano's job is not really that extreme. It's not in a class with this bike. So it should be relatively easy, but it's still a labor of love. But the truth is, everything I do, I try to treat like it's a labor of love, because if there's a saying that the Italians have, that they do things as if time doesn't matter, and I do remember that, and I try to, I'll borrow that from the Italians, from Luciano. Anyway, probably true. All right, time to get out of this frozen garage, have a cup of coffee, and get down by the project. It is so much nicer working inside on a day like today than working outside. And we don't know how the weather's going to play out either today. And I got the iconic work table out. When Luciano was here yesterday, if that table, I always say it, if that table could talk, boy, I don't know what it would say though. Is there anything better than being a happy bird eating free seeds in the morning? Yeah, I must have found a bargain somewhere else. All right, it's time to get started here. We've relaxed long enough. We got a new visitor this morning here. My pet cardinal. So step one on this, and we're going to try to get this done today, is get this wet sanded out with 2000 grit. There's an awful lot of little dust spots in it. And the reason we really have to do that, and it's super important, is where the decals are going to go, which is a big part of the side of the tank. If there's any dust in there and they get under the decals, it's going to look terrible. It also helps to get our paint lines that we can't feel it, but that final, when we do put the final coat of clear in this. But as I rub my hand on this, I can feel a lot of little dust in there, and that all we need is 2000 grit to get rid of that. To start, all we need is a little bit of warm water. A couple of drops of Dawn is all you need in that. That's all you need to get that cooking. All this is here for on 2000 grit sand out is to flush away all the microscopic little paint chips and dust that we're going to be sanding off. And to do this sand out, we're going to use 2000 grit Rhino Wet. That's a cool name. It sounds like you're sanding with a rhinoceros's hide, which maybe that's the point. This is the most important area here because this is where the decals are going to go. Now, if I were to put those decals right over this, which after I paint the trim, what's going to happen? There's going to be all little spots in there. So I want to at least get a flat base for this. Now, a lot of people would definitely skip this step, and a lot of people skip it because you know you're going to sand further into the project, and maybe this is overkill. But you know what? It's the middle of the winter, the middle of the holiday season, and I also want to have this as absolutely as good as I can make it. And this step will add a couple hours to the job, but who cares? It's the middle of the winter. That's the whole point of doing this stuff in the winter and not in the summer when you're itching to go for a ride. Now, it's going to just be a little labor intensive. I see that as soon as I see the water coming up light blue, I know I'm going down through. Now, and as long as I'm going to do this spot, I'll do the whole tank, of course. Now, it looks like, and I can absolutely feel the difference here. So this is going to be a step that's well worth doing. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, you could probably get away with just sanding the areas where the decals are, and yeah, there's always shortcuts to be taken. But if you decide you're going to do this kind of work in the middle of the winter, and you're not itching to ride, and even if you're itching to ride and you have more than one motorcycle, that's the trick, is never wind up with that you're itching. But because the way we used to do our modeling, we'd fly all summer and build planes all winter, and it really worked out well. And that's how I developed some of the stuff that I try to share on the video. It's from pretty much a lifetime of doing this, even when I was a teenage kid learning from Harold Price. But it's always something. And the general rule is to always remember, you can always avoid one step. And what happens is, I'm going to explain this in a way that makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. I can feel this through a rubber glove, and that's a John Pothier trick. Always feel through a rubber glove, yes. And right here, I'm smooth. Sounds like it wouldn't be a big deal. But what happens is when I lay out the tape, and this is going to be a complicated, I'm going to have to make patterns and everything and make sure it's symmetrical. What happens is if at that point in time I have big high paint ridges and things jumping through the paint, then what happens, I have to put on way too much clear. When you put way too much clear on, a year later, somewhere it cracks. Especially on a bike. This is a two-stroke bike. Not two-stroke, any of the old bikes, they're going to vibrate. So one of our objectives is to keep the finish as thin as possible, not have a high buildup that's going to be prone to crack. So this is all basic 101 technology, and the fact is, if I set out the way I want to do this today, I'll have the whole tank sanded, and it'll be labor intensive, no doubt about it. And then if I have any time left over, I'm going to try to cut up the patterns so that the next time we have a paintable day. Today is not a paintable day. A paintable day is not when it's 18 degrees out there, whatever the hell it is. It's really cold. So what I want to do, have everything ready. Then the objective is to get the patterns on, the tape for the white stripe, and paint the white stripe. That will be the next step. But I'm going to have to make patterns, and I'm going to have to make a color map of how I want to lay out the tape. Remove that, put that in, and I'm going to try to show every step on the video, because this is something, this is, when we're done with this should be a show quality tank. Now, because sanding with 2000 grit really does take quite a bit of effort, quite a bit of time, you can't really just rush through it. And I know when they do a car, they use various grits of sandpaper that they're appropriate when you're doing body work. In this case, this is the technique that I've used, and I've used it in modeling relatively successfully, and I've used it to paint motorcycles relatively successfully. And what happens is, by doing this, it's a little bit extra labor, but I think the quality, the final quality, like even in the Ninja project from last year, I think when people just stand back on a sunny day and see the reflection in the paint, they can tell. I don't know that that's true. A lot of people can't tell, but the people that can tell, and I know Luciano's one of them because he's worked in a body shop, and the people that have Glenn, that have done painting on the Jot, they know what a quality job is. Now, if we were to use heavier grit, it's going to leave sanding scratches. This is the beauty of using 2000, and we're just going to spend the next hour or so detailing out the tank. It's going to take time, but this is a step in the overall job that a couple of weeks from now, when this is all done and ready to deliver to our client. Hope this client has a pizza pie, a coupon for a pizza pie. But anyway, I laugh about it, but you know, Luciano has done some work for me. Hard work on cold days in his garage, and I'm always looking to repay a favor. This is the kind of stuff I can add. He adds his mechanical expertise. I add my paint technology. And what's beautiful is at the time I'm doing this, I can share it with you. Now this took a lot longer than I thought it would to finalize it, but I have the whole tank sanded now nice and smooth. There's pretty much, you can see how much came off. There's no dust in this now, and that's going to make, it's like building a foundation of a house. It's going to make the house just easier to build a house when you're working with a nice solid foundation. Now I'll get this done with some nice prep soil it down a little bit because I'm ready to make the patterns. And making the patterns is not a 5-minute job by any means. It's a labor-intensive thing. I don't want to shortcut it, and I'll show why as the pattern evolves. Okay, we're sand and prep soil down, and I'm just looking around here at the things that I've done in the past. Give me a little inspiration. Making up these patterns is a very, very tricky thing. Now, on a bike like the FZR, when I made the little sketches, I knew that was going to be at least 100 hours of masking and back masking and laying out the stripes. So the design part of it, I don't have to do any design. I've got to do a copy. And that stripe is going to have a round front. It's going to get a little bit thinner in the back, go around a tank, come out the other side. But I want the requirements, so I don't want it to look too big. I don't want it to look too small. I want it to look pretty much, and luckily I have plenty of pictures on the computer. Also, I want it to end at the same spot on the front of the tank. If one stripe goes further forward and one back, when you sit on a bike, sometimes you see that. I don't want one to be higher than the other. So that's probably Luciano calling to see if I'm done yet. Luciano, I'm not done. I'm still working on it. Okay, so on the computer, there's obviously plenty of pictures of what we're trying to accomplish. I know this is a shaky camera angle, but I wanted to use it to my own advantage. I can see that the stripe, and I have to mostly do this by eyeball. I can get a rough reference of where it ends relative to the front of the tank. It goes almost to the front. It does taper down in the back. And so the first thing, I have to account for the 3 stripes. The white stripe, then there's the stripe, the color of the tank, and then what on our bike will be a silver stripe. And then I have to make sure that the decals we have are going to be the appropriate size inside. So the first part of this job is to go get some office paper and start making up paper patterns. Boy, that phone is ringing off the hook today. Holy mackerel. Anyway, this is what we're looking for right now.
Call from.
So this is just going to be a question of doing it by eye, making up paper patterns, and making sure it goes to the right forward, have the right border on the bottom, and I think I have a good way of doing that. And to get it all lined up so it looks good from no matter what angle you stand by. Good news is we have plenty of references as to what this is supposed to look like, except we're going to be doing custom colors, which I think is a cool way to do it, is to make a bike with a custom paint job, but colors that they never had on the real bike. So this is kind of a up my alley thing. Now I want to see we're plenty long, and this is where you just start playing. I call it paper dollies. You just start making patterns until you find one that you think is close. As a starting point, it looks like that's pretty much the diameter. Actually, it's probably a little bit bigger than that. So we'll look for a roll of tape that's a little bit bigger, because it's always good to start with a pattern that's too big and then trim it. When it's too small, you have to go make another pattern if you want to do it. And this way that I've done it, I've painted hundreds of model planes that have won many awards, and plenty of motorcycles that, forget about the bragging. This is the way we do it. This is the way I do it. But always keep in mind, there's a million ways to do everything, including painting. This is my way. Now this is kind of easy technology. I look at this and I know this is too big. It's not allowing enough of the tank to show on each side. This one that's just a little bit smaller looks pretty close. So I'm going to make this pattern. I'm going to use this, the front shape of the pattern, and then I have to figure the length and how much it tapers. And I think we'll be pretty close within a reasonable amount of time. Because this time of year, our time is limited. We never have full sessions. We have an hour here, an hour there. There's no rhyme or reason until we get into, well into the new year. Kind of self-explanatory what I'm going to try to do. And first, of course, I want to start with a relatively straight line. That'll be the bottom. It looks like we're pretty close on this diameter, and we can adjust that. And I've got plenty of paper, by the way. That would be our front diameter. And so I'm going to do this by eye just to see what the taper would be. And that looks too much. I'm going to leave it a little bit bigger than it has to be, knowing that I may have to taper it a little bit more. But this will just be a basic pattern. Now it's going to have, there's going to be a white stripe, then a green stripe, and then silver. So I've got to account, as I do my map for the paint job, I want to know what I'm going to backmask when I paint this, and that's for a whole nother episode of this video. But right now I'm going to start by cutting out that part with a scissor. Now in the course of doing this, I saw that the original tape Luciano put on here, there was a problem. It wasn't sticking, so I know what the problem might or might not be. Is that there's one drop of fuel in the tank, and it got under the tape. Fuel is very capillary, so I don't want to have that fuel coming down onto this, what I've just prep soled the surface and gotten it perfectly clean. So I just retaped this, and hopefully that'll cure that problem. Well, before I even cut it out, I just want to look and see how it looks like it's too thick in the back. Maybe not. But the general rule is leave it bigger than it has to be and trim it. That's a big time saver. And this is where it really gets tricky, because when I lay this up here and I want to have a band on the bottom, I don't want this to go all the way to the bottom of the tank. I have to figure out how much I want to have at the bottom. And I'm going to go look at the drawing on the computer and see, that looks like it goes far forward like that. And that would mean my stripe needs to taper just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is take 1/8 of an inch at a time off the top of this stripe until I think I have the right taper. This part of it, if you don't get it right, the whole paint job suffers. If you get it right, and I'll do 1/8 of an inch, I may have to do more, but it's easier to trim it than to add it. And I've made enough of these patterns to know if you oversize them and trim them, you're way ahead of the person that's got to keep making a pattern over and over. And even if we do, I'll at least have a starting point. This is the critical thing, is to get a pattern that you're happy with. And getting this thickness right is going to be critical, and I see, the more I look at this, it goes all the way to the front of the tank. Now I'm pretty convinced I'm coming close here. I'm not sure how close, but we're getting close. Okay, so what this means now, and I've got this looking about like that does, I need to get another reference point on this. Now, before I even go any further, the next step on this, and this is a real simple thing, I need to put a couple, just 1 or 2 holes in this, and it doesn't have to be fancy, because this is what allows you to move it around conveniently. And if you reference the FCR videos from last year of how I laid out all that striping, wow, believe me, it was a big job. How big? Oh, and I did it in the freezing cold. That was even worse. Okay, so this is going to allow us to do this. I'm just demonstrating. Put it there, go look at the TV. Oh, nope, goes down just a little bit. Oh, it goes a little bit further forward. It's going to allow us infinite amount of adjustability until I think it looks the way I want it. And I will go back and forth now to see exactly how I want it. It looks like I'm bending that stripe around at the right thickness. This looks about right. So far anyway. It looks like we're pretty close. Now the final thing in all of this is I need to, here they are, the Kawasaki decals. I need to take one of these and make sure that they fit. There's just a spare one. That's going to look about the right proportion. So I think we have the decal part of it figured out. The decal runs parallel to the bottom, not the top. Yeah, I think we're all in proportion here to what I want. So what the first thing is going to be, and I'm not going to be able to do it today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here. But the first thing I have to do is make sure I have fresh tape, get this lined up, and make what amounts to be an outline of the white stripe. So what I'm going to have to do, if I don't have fresh tape, I'm going to have to take a run over the chart just to get a ghost outline of where this is going to be, and then transpose it over to the other side. The way you do that is you take the tape and you put it on the other side. You peel the tape off, and this is why you don't have to spend too much time. And so on the other side, you're using a mirror image. And that has worked really well for a lot of years. Now another little trick, anytime you do this, good little trick, and you make a curve and a straight line. You have a curve, I'm going to just show this, straight line curve. What happens is it looks fake. So what I always do, and I'm going to do it right now, I make what I call an easement. I just trim that corner by about a 1/64 of an inch. So it goes from a straight, it doesn't go dive in, it's called an easement. In railroading, you call it an easement. You don't go from a straight track to a switch. So by doing a little easement as I lay out the ghost, I'm just going to try to get the ghost done today before this session is going to come to a crashing end, I feel. And now with that little easement, you're not going to really notice it, but I'll notice it. Now I'm going to try to line this up just by eye to see how much from the bottom I have it. Yeah, that looks about right. Now it really, this is all in the eye of the beholder. That looks like we're pretty close. Now what the tape that's going to go around here now, it's going to be a ghost tape. All it's going to do is set the edge of what will be the white stripe. So that's probably, if we get that done today, I'll be thrilled, because the next session we'll be able to have fresh tape, hopefully, and get this all back masked off, and if it's a painting day, get the white shot. Now, if you're really looking to do high quality work, the trick is you never take the tape out of the package until you're actually ready to use it. What happens, the edge of the tape picks up dust off the towels, and then your edges get crappy. We do have fresh tape. I got tape this is left over from the FCR project, and I do have the thickness that I think I'm going to need. I'm probably going to need 1/4 inch too, and I got 1/4 inch. So it looks like, and this is all from the FCR, and I can see if this is still fresh tape. So I think we're pretty much, and we got a lot of old tape too. And this is what you don't want to do, is try to use up old tape on a job that you have your heart and soul tied up into. Next step on this, using brand new tape. We don't want to compromise this, because this is a live edge. When I'm done laying this tape out, this will be the outside edge of the white stripe. And I don't want to have last year's tape. I know I have a very fussy customer in Luciano here. And okay, so we have brand new tape. I got brand new razors. We can go lay out the ghost image of that stripe from that pattern and see if we like it. If not, we adjust it. Now, because I only do this realistically all through the winter and not in the summer, what happens is the first time in the winter when I start laying out tape, it takes me a little bit to get my balance, to get the ice skates to glide along the ice, so to speak. Anyway, we did get, after several attempts, I was happy, and I did get the outline of the ghost stripe in place, but it didn't go on the first shot. Now, after laying it out twice and looking over at the computer, I think we got that. We're real close, because that's going to be, again, that's going to be the outside edge. And I thought about putting more taper in it, and then it starts to look, it really does look, it almost doesn't have a taper. The only reason it has a taper is because the tank tapers. And if you left this one solid thing, it just wouldn't look right. So I think we're real close to having that side. Now, to flip it over and transpose the other side. So the first thing to try to make sure that these are, what I'm trying to make is that they're not one in front of the other. I'll put this tape, this is just how far forward this would go. Try to make it go right across the tank, and 90 degrees. Again, a lot of it's by eye. And that's how far, looking from the front, that's how far this piece, when we put this on, we got to allow the 1/8 inch for tape, and that's how far that goes. Then I want to look from the top and make sure I don't have the one stripe you can see, and there's a lot of back and forth here. This really takes time to get it right. Now I know some people don't care, but I care. So before I start lining up the back, I want to see if I'm close, because from the back I'd like to have these be pretty close. So now I have the forward dimension, I have this dimension. Now I can get a real good chance of getting it right on the first, second, or third try. So we know how far that's going to go up on the back, and we know it's got to come forward and be parallel to the bottom of the tank. And we could just temporarily get that in position. And I think that's going to make this, well, we're going to find out right away. One way or another, we're going to find out if it's our lucky day. Yep. Divot there. This is why I like to work over a surface that's perfectly smooth. I don't come upon right where I'm trying to put the tape, and all of a sudden there's a big glob of paint or some imperfection I have to deal with. I'm going to connect the dots here, connect that to the back. This should be a perfectly straight line. Cut this at the back and see how close we have it. So here's where it gets tricky. I want to make sure, and it looks like it's pretty good, I want to make sure from the top of the tank that I can see. Now see, I can see this as I'm riding the bike. I don't see one stripe and not the other. They follow through down at the bottom, and now I just have to carefully just connect the two pieces of tape. Once I do that, I have my whole the ghost outline of where I'm going to paint, and that might be probably all I'm going to get done today. And a lot of this is stuff you just have to eyeball and do over and over again. Let's just see if we can maintain. That looks about right. No, that's too up a little bit. Now back a little bit longer. This you don't even see. I don't know what I'm worried about. The seat covers this up, but when you take the seat off, I don't want to see. Oh my God, it's perfect. Chip Foose, eat your heart out. Okay. So now I just got to make sure all my tape edges are pressed down. And I have my ghost outline. I think we're really close. I'll shoot Luciano a picture of how much I got done today. Maybe he'll send me a pizza bonus. Who knows? You never know. You never know what could come in the mail. I'm pressing these down. I'm just thinking this was time well spent. We laid this out. I took my time. We pre-cleaned the tank. And we took care of that little possibility that that tape around the cap was leaking. Good investment. We have set ourselves up tomorrow for a good... Now, tomorrow will be interesting for a lot of ways. I have to make a map of which tape goes on and off, because this is a complicated thing. And even as careful as I am, every once in a while I pull up, that's not the tape that comes up. It's easy to do. But the pattern served our purpose. I looked again at the computer, and I think we've really got it just what Luciano's going to be happy with. So before I end the video, I want to thank the healthcare workers. You guys have really done a super job of keeping us healthy. And my whole family has been very fortunate in not getting the virus. We hope that's going to continue. Thank you guys so much. So I hope you have enjoyed the video, and seeing how I've done this over the years, and been able to pass it on with the magic of YouTube, even better. And I know a lot of my friends have learned over the years, modeling friends and motorcycling, picked up good tips, wound up painting their own stuff, and enjoyed time shared at my shop that, well, we all enjoy it. Anyway, this has been a hell of a year, but we're going to get through it together, and come springtime, we're going to be riding some pretty cool motorcycles. I hope this is one of them. I just hope they get this whole vaccine I can't even talk about it. I'm so hoping that it's all going to happen very, very soon. And we're all going to be back out doing what we love to do, share the passion of motorcycling. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Now, I do try to post up something new every day or so. In the winter, not as predictably as in the summer. But we're always working in the shop. And when we're not working, we're trying to think of new things to upgrade our little collection of motorcycles. The equipment we use, or the way we restore and finish these bikes, maintain them, work on them, whatever you want to call it. But I wanted to just remind people, just like the trim on this bike, and I'm just using this as an example, these things, when they're done accurately, and whether it's a simple job like the one we're doing for Luciano, or a complex one, extreme one like the FZR, the basic rules of engagement are all the same. To start with something very flat and clean, get nice clean tape edges, don't get the finish overly thick so it's prone to cracking. There's a lot of good rules. We're going to try to put them all on this set of videos. We try to put them on all our videos. And it's good basic information. I've been painting pretty much my whole life. I've tried to pass on everything I've learned. I do enjoy editing the video. I do enjoy watching them. And the biggest thing, thank you guys so much for watching. It's always fun to hear how much fun other people enjoy these videos. Thanks for watching.